welcome guys to a brand new video on solo leveling Arise. In today's video, what I'm going to be doing is taking a look at the blessing stones. Now for those of you guys who don't know what blessing stones are, it's essentially this section over here, and there's a lot of really good passives that I recommend. So in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the blessing stones and going over the ones that you definitely want to put on your Songjin rule. Now as you can see, I am currently at level 49. Eventually I will get to level 50, hopefully by the end of today, but I'm not sure about that. But by getting to level 50, I will unlock a second slot of the blessing stones in which I can now equip a second one, which would be great. Now for blessing stones that a lot of you guys have gotten, now I still recommend using the one they give you at the start, which basically makes you immortal after dying technically, which is very good. I like using this just in case I'm like nearly about to beat a stage but I just die, then this is going to be very helpful. So I do still think this is a very good blessing stone. But we're going to go over to the codex section over here, and we're going to be taking a look at all the blessing stones and go over the best ones. Now just so you know, there's different rarities. So we have the legendary ones, then we have the epics, and then we have the rare ones. Now they're all the same, it's just different tiers, by the way. So I'm going to be taking a look at it in legendary form, but do note that it's there is also an epic version and there is also a rare version, so I probably will take a look at them as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more content on solo leveling Arise. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys got lucky with your blessing stones. Now for those of you guys who are wondering actually how to get blessing stones, you essentially have to go over to Fuse, and this is it, the powder, the blessing stone powder, and then you have to fuse them. Now it's actually kind of rare to get this stuff, but once you do, you should be able to get a couple of blessing stones. There's a 2% chance you will get a epic version instead, and then from that you can use dupes to try and get the legendary version as well, which yeah, it's gonna be a while before we get some legendary ones. Okay, so going over to codex, let's take a look at the blessing stones. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, stay tuned for more content on solo leveling Arise. Go ahead and click the like button as well to show your support to the channel. Let's go ahead and get 60 likes in today's video. Hopefully you guys find this video helpful and overall useful. I will be releasing a lot more solo leveling content as well, so make sure you are subscribed so that you guys don't miss out on those future videos. Okay, so the first blessing we're going to be taking a look at is the assassin proficiency. So your back attack damage is increased by 16%. Now of course this is an increase in our damage, which is good. However, there is a condition to do this, which is we have to attack the enemies from the back. But if we're attacking from the back, the enemy usually turns around and tries to attack us from the front, and the only time we can do our back attack besides actually running around is when we dash accurately, and then we have that skill active that instantly spawns us behind the enemy. However, that is not a consistent increase in your damage. It's only when you attack them from the back, which you are not going to be consistently doing every single time. So therefore, I do think this is good in general because of the increase in damage. However, compared to the other blessing stones that I've read, this is not the best. So it's decent but not the best. In fact, I don't even think I would equip this, honestly. So I would say this is not that good. Now however, this is legendary, so take a look at it. When it's rare, the percentage will be slightly lower, so 7%. So I think it's good but not the best, and I definitely would not be equipping it. So we have fatal strike next. The target's break gauge instantly decreases by 5% when you land a crit hit. Now depending on your build, this is something that you can do often. If you take a look at my Songjin rules build, I do have quite a good amount of crits, and that doesn't even take into account my weapons, other skills that also increases my crits rate. So I do think this is good. However, I did see a better one of the break gauge skill in the blessing stones. So I do think this is good in general, but there is a better one that I found. So this is not bad to have. But also do note, not every single enemy has a break gauge. So this is something that you will keep switching out of your build when you don't require it. There is some blessing stones that you might not always want to use, but there are some that you will always want to use. So this one is one of those ones that if you're going against enemies with a break gauge and you want to get more break damage or break done consistently or faster, then this is definitely something you could go ahead and equip. So actually, if it's 5% per second, 5% when you land a crit hit. Okay, if I was doing a calculation, if I consistently crit, let me just go ahead and pull up my calculator. Actually, I don't need to do my calculator. So that's 100%. So you get 100%. I think break bar is 100%, right? So divided by 5, that's 20. So within 20 seconds, the break bar would instantly break without using any other skills with a break ability. But if you're using other hunters with the break ability as well that can break the enemy, then it should be a lot faster. So I do like this. I do think it's good. Going over to the next one, this is also another conditional one. When your weakness attribute damage is increased by 20%. Your weakness attribute damage is increased by 20%. Now I do think this is good in general. However, once again, this is something you would switch out and switch in when you require it. If you're going against content where the weakness attribute is fire and you have Chow and Emma or maybe one other future fire character, then this is something you can go ahead and equip because your damage will be 20% higher, which is good, which is definitely good. So I do think it's good, but it's not something you will always equip on your character, especially if you don't have the characters with the weakness attribute available. So yeah, it's good, it's very, very good, but not something you would always use. Next up, you have HP extraction. You recover 12% of your HP when defeating an enemy. Now this I don't think is that great at the moment. Now if in the future, if they release a content where survival is key and they spawn a lot of little minions that you have to kill, and your points is dictated by how long you last, then this is going to be very, very good. However, right now we don't have a content like that, so I can't say how good this is at the moment, but it's, compared to the other blessing stones I've seen, it doesn't really stand out to me. It just only helps with your HP recovery, and to be honest, there's a better one than this, which you already have already. In my opinion, it's better to have this already than to use that. So this doesn't help with your attack, so I would say this is not that great at the moment. You never know, in the future they might have a survival game mode. Next up, we have swiftness. Now this is something that I would recommend to people if you can't dash accurately. Now dashing in this game is very, very important. However, you only have 3 max dash. However, if you feel like, okay, having more dash will be beneficial for me because I take a lot more damage because I can't dash accurately, then this is something you can go ahead and equip, which you will get an additional increase in your dashes by 1. So instead of having 3 dashes, you would have 4, and there's also a 30% chance that your dash cooldown will reset. So this is something that won't always proc, but you do have a chance of this proccing that could come in very, very handy and come in very, very clutch. It doesn't really help with increasing your damage, but it helps increasing your survivability, and actually technically a little bit in your damage as well, because if you can dash accurately and you have the skill unlock, so the skills that are conditional. Let me go over to skills. This type of skills where you need to nope, not this one, it's this one. So if you perform a dash properly, you can go behind the enemy. So yeah, technically if you're able to do it more consistently now, since you have an extra dash, then this would be very, very useful actually. So I do think it's a really, really good blessing stone, but it's not for everyone to use, since if you can accurately dodge, then I guess you're fine. But this is still a very, very top tier blessing stone in my opinion. Next up, you have double-edged sword. When your attack hits, your attack stat is increased by 4% for 10 seconds, but the attack stat of the targets that was hit also increases by 4%. I don't think that is too good to have. Yes, you can increase your damage by 40%, but your enemy also increases that damage by 40%, which, yeah, does not sound too good in my opinion. So in general, it's a double-edged sword, like it says. I don't think it's something you would use compared to the other blessing stones I've taken a look at. Next up, you have boss slayer. Your damage dealt to boss increases by 20%, but the cooldown of your dashes is increased by 30%. This is something you could pair well with the swiftness over here. You can pair both of them well, but at the same time, this is definitely going to be a huge detriment to being able to dash consistently. But if you have swiftness, then I guess you wouldn't mind that. But at the end of the day, you only have 4 slots available in your Songjin Rule for blessing stones. So at level 70, you will have all 4 slots available. But early on, this is something you probably will not use because there's only 1 slot available. And you're not going to use that for that first slot, honestly. If you had 2 slots, then I guess you could, but there's better blessing stones. One more time, there is other better blessing stones that you would use. So I think it's decent, but it's not something you would use at the current stage we are in the game. Maybe in the future, when you have all slots available, so when you get to level 70, you might want to use that alongside swiftness. If you don't have swiftness, there's no point of using this, honestly, because this is, yeah, against bosses, they do a huge amount of attacks. You want to dash consistently. Next up, we have Chain of Blood. Your attack damage increases by 30% of your lost HP ratio, but also increases your damage taken by the same time. This is garbage. Like, yeah, your damage can be increased, but if you're losing HP and your HP loss is huge, and you obviously get an increase in your attack damage, well, at the same time, the damage you're going to be taking is going to be increased even more. So this is just going to be something that smacks you in the face. So I don't think it's that great. So yeah, nah. I think it's a hit or miss sometimes. So I'm going to say no to this one. Next up, we got Demon Slayer, which initially, okay, your mana increase by 1000 is good. But you do need to remember your characters also has cooldown. However, you do need to also take a look at the artifacts. There are artifacts in this game, like if you take a look at this one, which increases your skill MP consumption rate by 20%, but also increases your damage. So actually having that mana thing will actually come in very, very handy if you are using this gear, which actually makes it a really good gear in general. If you're worried about mana consumption, having that blessing stone will come in very, very handy. And honestly, guys, there's other blessing stones that pair extremely well with that. Which one was it? It was Demon Slayer. There's other blessing stones that I will take a look at that pair extremely well with Demon Slayer, and honestly makes this one of the best blessing stones to go for. So this is really, really good. Okay, next up we have Conqueror of Adversary. Every time your HP decreases by 30%, your attack, defense, and HP is increased by 4%. For free attacks up to 3 times. Honestly, I'm gonna pass on this. It's a 4%. It's a 12% increase in your attack, defense, and HP if you stack this appropriately. But you're gonna lose a lot of HP in that. So, like I said, there's other blessing stones that are better than this. So I'm gonna say no to this. Next up, we have Wolf Assassin. The damage you deal to non-boss monsters is increased by 16%. Once again, just like the previous ones, this is something you won't always equip. If you're going against bosses, then you would take this off. But if you're going against a lot of like minions, and there's no bosses, then this is going to be a really, really good blessing stone, because you can deal a lot more damage against those non-boss monsters. So I do think this is actually a really good one, but something you will not use every single time. You will switch it out depending on the content on the enemies you're going against. So honestly, it's a pretty good one in general. Next one, we have Pulverize. Your attack or the power of your break effects you apply to the enemies increase by 30%, and the damage you deal targets affected by the break effect is increased by 30%. Now, like I mentioned, this one is a better version of the Fatal Strike, in my opinion, because this will actually be very, very good. Now, you could pair this and that together to increase your break effect even more, but I do think this is actually very, very good. But once again, not every single enemy has a break gauge or break meter, so this is something you won't use every single time, and sometimes there is bosses that don't actually regenerate the break meter as well. So if you're going against bosses that has the break meter and do regenerate the break meter, then this is going to be an extremely good good blessing stone. Is definitely good. 30% increase, that is nutty. Now this is at legendary. Just take a look at the values. They're all at legendary, so you probably get the rare ones first, but in general it's still a really, really good one in my opinion. So I do think this is also a top tier blessing stone. Next up, we have Camouflage. When you receive damage equal to 5% or more of your max HP, you camouflage for 3 seconds and recover 5% HP every 1 second. I don't really like this, to be honest, but it could come in very handy, but I still would prefer this one in general. So I'm just gonna say it's decent. Next up, we have Bloodlust. When hits, decreases the target's attack by 12% for 6 seconds, and when attacking, you decrease the target's defense by 12% for 6 seconds. So I do like this as well, because you can increase your own damage and you can also decrease the target's attack as well. So I do think it's also a pretty good blessing stone as well that you could go ahead and use as well. Next up, we have sharp perception. Your crit rate will increase by 3% for 8 seconds when your attack hits, and this stacks up to 6 times. So 6 times 3, that is 18% increase in your crit rate. You just have to hit the enemy as fast as possible so you can get the max increase. And increasing your crit rate, everyone knows that why this is good in general. So yeah, I do also think this is also worth having as well, and it's a really good blessing stone. Next up, we have Reawakening. Your cooldown will decrease by 20%. So this is for your skill. Now, like I mentioned, the main issue with Demon Slayer is the fact that yes, increasing your mana is really good. However, there is the cooldown issue, which you won't be able to spam your skill just simply because you have a mana. You need the cooldown to be reduced. So honestly, Demon Slayer paired with Reawakening is essentially amazing together. Decreasing your cooldown, plus if you pair this up with the artifact that I just mentioned, that would be insanely good. So a lot of people don't like this, artifact, but honestly, if you have that blessing stone, this is going to be one of the best artifacts for damage dealers in the game, besides the one for increasing crit rate. This will be very good. This is just increasing damage. It doesn't say about attack, so any damage dealer that scales off defense or HP, this will actually benefit them as well. So very good. Let me take a look at this again, actually. Yeah, it's very good. Very good, like top tier, guys. Next up, you have Mana Rampage. Your attack will increase by 16%, but your mana consumption will also increase by 16%. Like I mentioned, if you pair that up well with Demon Slayer, that is a really good combo. So Demon Slayer plus Mana Rampage plus Reawakening, that is a really good combo. And I really do think it actually is really good. Really good. Yes, there is an issue with the mana consumption, but if you have Demon Slayer, you should be fine. Next up, you have Monarch Domain. The shadow, activates to increase the shadow shadow's attack within the domain by 100%. I don't know how wide the domain is, but the shadow also deals damage equal to 100% of the value of your attack stats every second to enemies within domain. This is also very good. This is only if you're going to be summoning your shadows. So I do think this is also a very top tier blessing stone. And obviously we already have this one at rare, and I do think this is very good as well. Just in case you're about to kill something, but you die, this will come in very clutch. So I do use this still, even though I have other blessing stones. This is honestly the best blessing stone I have, and I do think it's good. If you take a look at the other blessing stones I have. Okay, scrolling down to speed. Now this one increases your speed by 20%, and your dash cooldown will decrease by 20%. So that's actually good as well. Speed, that is actually really good, really good. And the speed increase isn't really too important, but the dash cooldown is really good. If you pair this up with the other one, which one was it again? There we go. The cooldown of your dash increases by 30%. You can pair that up well, but I still think the best combo you would use is Demon Slayer, Mana Rampage, Reawakening. Those are really good ones. So I do think it's good. Really top tier. Next up, we have Mana Steel, which decreases your damage taken by 15%. Very useful, but it doesn't increase your damage. But I do think this is quite useful. If you're trying to cheese content, this might be very helpful. Next up, we have Advanced Dagger Technique. When you're attacking an enemy who has 70% or less of the HP, the damage you deal increases by 14%. This is also good, especially if you pair it up with another artifact, which also increases your damage based on the enemy's HP. So this is based on the user's HP, but there is one for the enemy's HP. Where is it? Okay, no one is having it right now. But if I go over to here, it's this one. So this will pair extremely well with the other one, but it's a conditional one. The enemy has to be 60% or lower, and I still think there's other blessing stones you would rather use than that. But it's a very good blessing stone, never the least. It's really good. And then we have Tenacity, which the damage you take will decrease by 50% when you have 30% or less. Could help with cheesing as well if you pair Tenacity with Steel Scales, but it doesn't help with increasing your damage, and your HP has to be below 30%. At that point, that's just too risky. Next up, we have your maximum HP is increased by 10%. Okay, that's garbage. That's a no-no. So yeah, there we go. That's all the really good blessing stones in this game. I will make a video going over rating all the blessing stones. I will make another video going over the top 10 blessing stones in the game and the ones you definitely want. Like I said, there is only 4 slots for blessing stones at level 70. So in my opinion, the ones I really want is gonna be Demon Slayer, Reawakening, Mana Rampage, and I'm gonna use one more just to increase my attack in general. So yeah, we'll take a look at that later on. It's been your boy AC Gamer. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm out.